Welcome to the Honest Health Podcast with your host, Jeffrey Burke. Honest Health brings you the brightest minds in the natural products industry, as well as athletes and entertainers. Jeff will keep you entertained and informed while educating on how to be successful on your healthy journeys. Now, here's your host, Jeffrey Burke.
Hello and welcome back to the Honest Health Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Burke. I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to be doing something different today. I let you know, as many of you have followed me for decades, and you know that I've always kept my radio shows on the topic of health and well-being. Well, I'm doing that, but I'm also going to broaden the focus and the horizons of my podcast, which means I'm still going to have the best minds in the industry, here talking about what's new, what's changed, what's upcoming, the state of health across the country. But I'm also going to be interviewing people because I want to know, and I know you'd like to know, what they're doing behind the scenes, like the wizard behind the curtain. I want to kind of know what people are doing to be able to do what it is that they do. So I'm going to be broadening over into entertainers. I'm going to be bringing athletes on here, and I'm actually starting my first set of professional athletes. And I think you're really, really going to enjoy this. So let me get started with bio. My guest today is also a very good longtime friend of mine, Mark Bugni. Mark was born in Butte, Montana. His family resides in North Dakota and Montana, and he's now currently residing in Shawnee, Oklahoma. Mark was, although always on horses, did spend 15 years in the hotel industry. He did study farrier science at Montana State University and currently trains barrel futurity coats full-time since 2011. Some great stats. 2 times $100,000 futurity slot race champion, 2 times back-to-back Old Fort Days futurity champion, 2019 World Finals champion, 4 times American Rodeo Semifinals qualifier, 3 times on the cover of Barrel Horse News, and that's big. Holds the record for futurity coats with the most futurity championship titles with 11 total on JL Rock Lost to Sock. With over $1.6 million in earning, I would love to introduce my wonderful friend to you, Mark Bugni. Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm so glad to have you as well. This has been a lifelong journey for you. And, as we talk about different sports and we talk about athleticism, I think some people usually go right to football and hockey and basketball and things like that. But I don't think a lot of people really understand the athleticism that it takes to be riding an animal that can be having a bad day. And you're not on the ground, you're not catching a ball, you're not doing what you're doing, not to demean any of that. But I mean, it is a different kind of a sport.
It is, yeah. As a matter of fact, it made me recall instantly the accident I accidentally got you into years ago. We won't go into
Yes, you
great
did.
detail, but it just goes to show you, you never know what'll happen. It's a dangerous sport.
Yep.
We make it look easy by being professionals, just like any, athletic sport. But there's a great deal of danger involved for sure.
How much physical strength does it take on your side? Obviously, horses need to be trained, and then they need to be worked, and then they need to be exercised. People think you're continually training, but when your horse is trained, you're keeping them tuned up like you do a professional car or something else, or your body for whatever you're doing. But you have to be in shape as well to be able to ride a horse that needs to be in shape on the same time.
Yes. It can really hinder you as an athletic rider, if you will. There's a lot of people that don't do anything physically and they just go run barrels. But I'm telling you, just through my experience, when I'm not in good shape, if I'm carrying a little extra weight, if I haven't been going to the gym and kind of keep my cardio up, I can notice a huge difference. Especially age has a factor to do too, but your balance is compromised, your core strength is compromised. Just even flexing and looking around turns, just simple things like that, it's very difficult. When a horse makes a move in a run that throws you off balance and you have to recover, it's difficult if you're not keeping up on your exercising, a little bit of weight work, some cardio work, flexibility work. Stretching is probably the number one important factor in this game. And then like I just try to keep myself between 135 and 140 pounds, not aggressively, like I'm not going to starve myself or anything, but that's a really comfortable weight for me to ride in. I stay strong, I feel healthy, and I feel flexible, and that's the best for me.
Well, people that have never ridden horses, and let's say they're on vacation and they go ride a horse and they're out and they're having the whole day. The next day, they're feeling all those muscles that they're not used to exercising and working. And these are all muscles that are done every day because I know many, many people in the equine, in the rodeo industry. I have a lot of friends. I'm very blessed to have great people, and many of them are at the top of their careers. So that's amazing. But they ride almost every single day. It's not like
Yes.
they skip days, and I know most of them feel bad when they skip a day because they want
Yes,
to make sure that things are perpetually training and everybody's tuned up and ready to go.
exactly.
But it's so different to, let's say you have a horse that's just having a bad day. It's kind of like the Olympics. You train and train and train, and you're on the ice skating and you don't land any of your jumps, but they've all been good up till that point. So there's a lot of things that can happen at the last minute. Your horse can be in tune, you could be healthy, but you could be sick and you could have a bad day, and all the practice and everything, everybody has a bad day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing you have to forgive yourself for is to have those off days, especially when you're working with an animal. Like you say, they're going to have off days. You're going to have off days. The important thing to remember is, there's a saying that says, neither success nor failure is ever determined on a single barrel race. And I try to keep that in mind when you do have a bad run. If your horse has been consistent, you're staying on top of keeping your horse healthy, keeping them vetted properly, keeping them fed properly, and paying attention to any kind of unsoundness issues that are popping up. If you're taking care of things, your horse has been consistent, and then you have an off day, you just got to write it off as exactly that. You can't beat yourself up. You can't beat your horse up for that. It's just going to
Right.
happen as part of the whole thing.
Well, let me ask you a question because I want to get to the healthy side of this as well. Do you feel that when you're more on your diet, your supplements, you're getting better rest, you're hydrating well, that you perform better?
100%. And I can tell you, like, I'm guilty of not being as healthy as I really need to be, but I can tell you, I go through kind of periods where I'll do a little kind of some intermittent fasting and then, take some vitamins and like do the things I'm supposed to. So, nutrition shakes, that sort of thing, get some good rest. Obviously, stay hydrated. I'm not a huge water drinker, but I'm trying to force myself to be more of that. And yeah, it makes your whole body, your energy levels better. My muscles function better. I don't get near as sore if I have to, have a bad day in the training pen and you're kind of wrestling with a colt. You can get pretty sore doing that sort of thing because they're making moves that they don't normally make. So you're using muscles you don't normally use, and it makes a big difference to be, have the right nutrition in you, have the right rest, the right hydration, especially.
Well, because you're outside, this is not usually an inside training sport unless you have an indoor arena, which is fantastic. But the thing is, around the country, you and I both have common friends that are professional barrel racers and amateur barrel racers, and they're in different climates. So there must be a little bit of an adjustment that you have to make depending on the climate that you're in for your training and your competing.
Oh gosh, it is. I've lived way up north, Montana and North Dakota. They get the worst winters in the world. Summers are really nice. They still get hot during the day, but you get nice cool downs in the evenings and the mornings. Down here in Oklahoma, the summers are brutal. It's very humid. It's very hot. You have to adjust the time of day that you're going to ride. You have to keep your rides a little bit shorter so you can make it through them. Typically, if I'm done by noon in the summertime down here in Oklahoma, you're starting to cook pretty good by then, but you have to
Yeah.
adjust that. You have to make sure that you get your horses on electrolytes so they're drinking well, because they'll sweat like crazy. And we have a lot of, I don't have a lot of horses with the issue, but a lot of horses do stop sweating because their sweat glands go into overdrive. And there's times when it's so humid here, standing in the pens, and it can be in the 80s, and the horses will stand there and sweat. And that's a lot of drain on their system, a lot of minerals and things going out of their system that they need to replenish. So electrolytes are huge in the summertime down here. Your time of training, like you say, I don't have an indoor arena, so I'm out in the sun. So it's hard on me. You got to use some sunblock, wear hats, wear sunglasses, take care of yourself that way, and then hydrate like crazy. You got to keep water and things close to you when you're as you saddle each horse and move to the next one. You got to stay hydrated. It's difficult to keep yourself really healthy, and I'm really bad about getting what I feel is kind of a heat stroke, and
Yeah.
it can take over pretty fast and stuff when I'm out riding, and I just kind of have to quit and get in the house for a little while.
Cool down.
Yes, exactly.
And keep in mind also, this is just a hint from here. Make sure that when you're using biggest problem we have with men is the top of their ears, the back of their neck, the back of their hands, their chest area, and they're exposed. But when people are putting on sunscreen, they forget the back of the ears and the neck, and they forget the
Yes.
top of their hands and their arms, because those are like you're laying in a frying pan out there like you're cooking
Yeah,
bacon.
absolutely.
So we have to protect ourselves. So I'm glad to know that you're doing that. So Mother Nature does tap dance on us every once in a while as we're getting older, and
Every
God
year.
love her. God love her. But she does play some games with our state of health and our flexibility and our energy levels. How do you deal with those cruel things that Mother Nature does to us as we're getting older?
I have to say I'm pretty blessed with a pretty good genetic body, I guess you could say. I'm built to kind of hold up a little bit more than some people, but I can tell you there's a huge difference on, like, I get a lot of back problems, like especially lower back problems when I'm not going to the gym. And like in the summertime when it gets so hot and I ride all morning long, I get so exhausted I don't want to go to the gym. So my summertime slow down gym wise, that's when I usually get like bad back problems and that. If
Yep.
I'm staying strong and going to the gym and exercising those muscles, stretching them, working them like I'm supposed to, and I'm not talking like weightlifting, powerlifting. I'm just saying staying fit and staying tuned and staying flexible, it makes a huge difference on my entire body feel. I don't take any kind of, like, say, joint supplements or anything of that nature. Everything holds up pretty good if I just exercise and stay moving. When I don't do that and I just do the very basics, just ride and kind of do nothing else, it catches up to me pretty fast. And then I got to visit the chiropractor several times, go to the massage therapist, get back in the gym. And then once you get the proper program, then you're fine again. And that's how it works for me. So I know it's my fault usually when my back starts hurting.
And horses, they acclimate to things a lot better. Out here, you were out here in Vegas for a while,
Yep.
and they're people are like, how do they handle the heat? And I'm like, they acclimate. I mean, I know they do. You have to have fresh water because if the water's dirty, they won't drink it. And then you end up with colic and all those kind of crazy things. Do you do anything for the horses you're working to keep them more fit other than just exercise and good diet?
Um, that's really pretty much it. I mean, I try to get them, as far as mentally, I get them out of the arena and take them out into the pastures. I kind of do
Yeah.
a combination of both. I'll go pasture ride. I do what I call an aerobic exercise on my horses a couple days a week, where I'll take them out and I'll walk them around the pasture a little ways. Then I'll trot them, then I'll long trot them, then I'll slow open, then I'll breeze them for a little bit, then bring them back down in those paces. And I do that twice. It really builds a lot of lung capacity. It stretches out their muscles because if they don't have to worry about turning a barrel, they'll come back and stretch their stride out more, and then they come back to you easier. It's a lot easier on their body than coming up and slowing down and turning a barrel and that sort of thing. But it really, really helps their muscles. It strengthens their tendons, their ligaments, everything, and just makes them a much healthier animal all the way around. But I'm a very, very basic person when it comes to feed with a horse. I do believe in doing whatever you need to do to take care of their stomachs and their hind guts. Those are very, very important to me. So I've got 100X Equine Gut X that I give them. I do ulcer guard whenever I'm traveling away from the house. Once in a blue moon, I'll go ahead and treat them for ulcers if I feel like one has built some ulcers. Um, I do Ultium, Purina Ultium competition for grain. I only grain once a day now. I have pure alfalfa cubes. And then, of course, my pastures carry just a little bit of grass, so they have a little grass to nibble on during the day. And that's my whole program. I do use Succeed for their hind guts, and I really, really like that product. But that keeps my horses very, very healthy. They don't seem to need more than that. And I don't believe in a lot of supplements. And like, I get a lot of offers for sponsorships for supplements and different products. But if I do not believe in it, if I use it and I see no difference, I don't feel right holding a sponsorship from somebody. So I'll actually turn it down. And I've turned down, 3 or 4 sponsorships because of that. But if I believe in your program, I'm going to use it and I will tell everybody how good it is.
See, that's the credibility issue that's there. Hey, have you ever done chiropractic or equine massage on a
100%.
horse?
Yep. I'm a
Okay.
huge believer in equine chiropractics. I know a lot of people strangely say they don't believe in that, but I can tell you like night and day differences. And of course, there's a lot of, just like any industry, there's a lot of, I guess you could say quacks or just people that aren't so good at that job. And then there's some really, really good ones that have been proven and that work on a lot of the professionals' horses. And, when you get to the right chiropractor, if it is a chiropractic issue, you have absolutely no doubt it is a real program and a real necessity.
What was your one-time favorite horse that you'll never forget?
Oh gosh. There's honestly a couple, but I have to say it's the one that really started me, that enabled me to move down south, and that would be Inman v. Let Me Run. I called him Tigger. He won a lot of stuff for me. I was in North Dakota at the time, North Dakota and Montana between the two, and he won enough money for me to bank and move south down to Texas to start with. And without that horse, without the wins that he gave me, without his heart, I would have never started on the journey, down in this area where it put me right in the middle of the barrel racing mecca.
Why not horse track racing? Why barrel racing?
I started out for about 4 years on the racetrack. I never did actually run in races, but I exercised race horses, cleaned stalls, managed, barns. Um, I just did not like you don't get the horsemanship qualities there. You see a lot of what I consider not very ethical treatment of some of those horses. A lot of drug usage, a lot of things that I just don't believe in. And it was, you're always dealing with a horse that's box stalled, fed like crazy. They're wired, 24/7. They're very hard to deal with on a daily basis. And I wanted to be riding the horses. Like I had a passion to be with the horse, feel the adrenaline rushes, that sort of thing. And of course, my mom was into the barrel racing a little bit, and so she kind of got me, headed that direction. And it was just something inside of me just drew me that direction. I love the speed events, and of course, barrel racing has like everything that you could do for adrenaline.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I never clicked over to that side. I love watching them. I announce tons of barrel races all over the place,
Yeah.
and my mouth is better up in the crow's nest announcing than it is being on the back of the horse. But I mean, I love the sport, and I love all the people that I get to work with from all over the country. And like I said, we're going to be seeing a whole bunch of people coming out here soon for NFR finals, so that's
Yes.
going to be really, really great. Talk a little bit about being on the road, because being on the road is a mental game in its own right,
Yes.
because you're away from home. I mean, I'm on the road a lot with my job, so I'm in hotels and stuff all over the place, and I'm new environments, new people, new everything, and I've learned how to travel successfully, if you will.
Yes.
But being on the road, you're at the mercy of the road, the weather, the tires on the trailer, the health of yourself, the health of the horse, where you're going, you don't know how you're stalling, you don't know what the accommodations are. I mean, I know you slept in the truck, I know you slept in the trailer, I know you've done it all because that's what happens. How do you deal with it? Is it a mental game, or do you just accept what comes your way?
Both, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You have to accept stuff because you can't be prepared for everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you just, the older you get, the more you run into, the better prepared you make yourself for going down the road. I lived out of my living quarters trailer for about a year and a half when I was building my place here in Shawnee. And so I got very, very comfortable in there. Just being by myself, it's much easier. I do have a dog, so he travels with me, so he kind of keeps me company. And honestly, that helps a lot. But the most important thing to be prepared for on that is find places to stay that can be recommended to you by other travelers, like other barrel
Mm-hmm.
racers or other rodeo people. Because there's a lot of places that just aren't real safe, whether it be physically safe or safe for your things not to get stolen.
Yeah.
So it's really important to kind of know where you're going, know how far your travel is. I used to get my horses, they had a rule that every 300 miles or every 3 hours, get your horses out of the trailer. But I've learned it's so dangerous when you get your horses out of the trailer at a truck stop. Some horses will pull back and break their ties at the tie ring, and now you got a loose horse across of a truck stop, maybe running out into a highway. You never know. So I get a little worried about that. I used to, when I was traveling with somebody, I used to get them out of the trailer and drink and feed them or drink them, or excuse me, water them. But now I just drop their windows down, and all my horses learn to drink out the window out of a bucket. And, I try to take my time when I stop for a meal. I take my time, maybe take, 45 minutes to an hour where they can stand there without the trailer moving. That helps a lot. Of course, having a quality trailer really helps a lot. There's a little more space in there. They can actually move. They can get their heads down to kind of drain out their nasal passages. Little things like that. And when I get somewhere, I like to, if I'm going on a long trip, I like to give them a dose of Ulcer Guard, and I like to give them 10 cc's of Banamine. That seems to prevent them from getting any stomach issues, colicky issues, that sort of thing. Especially if it's hot out, they seem to eat and drink better when I do that. And when I get to where I'm going, I'll always give them 5 cc's of Venopulmin, which clears their airways and gets any of the gunk out there. Because I know a lot of horses will get pneumonia if you travel on the road or in the trailer too long and they can't get their heads down. If you're one that ties their heads up, if they can't get their heads down, none of that stuff drains out naturally where they can, blow it out of their sinus passages and all that. And you can cause some real issues and stuff. So you have to really be smart about what you're doing, how you get there, how you take off for your trips, and how you land when you get there. And I've had really, really good luck. I have not had anything colic on a trailer. When I get where I'm going, a lot of times they might cough for a minute or two, but once that Venopulmin hits them, they clear out really good, and they're just as happy as could be. So I've had really good luck that way. And of course, traveling with your trailer and stuff, I always put a spare tire up in the pod, just off of a rim, because you never know when you're going to have a flat tire. You can have brand new tires and one will go flat inevitably, especially on the hot roads in the summertime when you're traveling 100-degree temperatures. You're going to get flat tires. So you've got to be prepared for that. Um, I've got a Milwaukee impact wrench for pulling the lugs off, and I've learned how to do it pretty fast. I've got a ramp to pull my trailer up on, so you don't have to jack nothing up. I can just leave all the horses in the trailer. I've gotten pretty fast at that, but you have to be prepared for all that kind of stuff, and it just takes going down the road to kind of figure out a lot of that stuff.
And then the fear of being on the side of the road, it's frightening. I had to learn how to drive a trailer, with horses and stuff and the truck
Uh,
and all that. And I learned how to do it. But a very good friend of mine who you were friends with as well taught me that how he learned, because his father was on the track and he started on the track as a young kid. His father put him in the back of the trailer and made him stand in the middle of the trailer, and he drove around so he could feel what a sharp turn felt like. He was
oh
flying all
yeah,
over the trailer. He said, and that was exactly what taught me how to drive correctly and take slower turns, because the horses are standing up.
yeah,
They may have dividers between them, but they're still standing up. So he
exactly.
said it made me become more impactful with my sensitivity to the animals back there. And I thought that was kind of so right from the very beginning, I was turns and everything, I was thoughtful, of the animals that were back there, because you don't think about it. You got 3 horses, you got almost 4,000 pounds of horses back there.
Yeah,
So you have to be respectful, because they are part of the team. It's
absolutely.
not you
Without
running
them,
around.
there's no team.
Yeah, yeah, and we look so ridiculous running around the arena on our bare feet. Another question: how mental is it being on the road and the sport in general? I mean, do you have to get out of your head?
Yes, you have to get out of your head. You have to learn to appreciate all the the new environments that you have, the new arenas that you go to, the people that you meet. There's so much to it. It's very, very easy to experience burnout. And I do that at home more than I do out on the road, because at least out on the road, you get to travel to a different place every week or every couple of weeks. But burnout is huge.
Yeah.
And I've got friends that are younger that haven't kind of figured out the process or the cycle that you go through. Like, for me, about every year to a year and a half, I'll feel enough burnout where you just kind of feel like quitting. And when you're younger, that's kind of what you feel like you should do. Well, maybe I wasn't cut out for this, maybe I need to go and do something different. Well, as I got older, I figured out it's just burnout, but you have to figure out how to fix your burnout. So what I do is, either give the horses a little bit of a break. I keep my herd a little bit small, anyways. I'll take a little bit more of a vacation time. Friends of mine and stuff will go to the lake, that sort of thing. But it's really important to take care of your mental health that way and keep yourself refreshed and still loving the sport. Because I can tell you, anytime you pull away from it, especially if you're away from it for 3-4 weeks, your passion's going to float back to the surface. Your ambition, your excitement's going to come back, but that's all it is. It's just burnout. But you have to recognize yourself and know what it takes to get yourself back to feeling like ambitious and ready to go again. That's the biggest thing for me mentally.
One thing I've noticed about the horse community, and I can't even say this, across the whole thing because I'm sure there's good and bad in every sport, obviously. But I would say if I would go out on a limb and say for the most part, the competitors, they seem like they're supportive of each other. And if there's a problem, people will step up. You need a hose, you need a bucket, you need a bridle, your something broke, or you need a set of bell boots. People are there to kind of work with you. And I think that's something that I kind of like about the industry. Now, it doesn't mean that it's across the board, because there's going to be people
Right.
that don't share their stuff, don't play well with others, don't like the sandbox.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
for the most part, do you seem that it's a good camaraderie within the sport?
Yeah, definitely. There's different divisions that people don't realize within the barrel racing community. We've got the futurity division, there's the open rodeo divisions, there's the jackpotting divisions, there's the pro rodeo divisions. That's all within our same industry, but it kind of almost, I don't want to say clicks, but it's just like kind of different programs. Like our futurity people, we know each other as we go to futurity after futurity, kind of our own little um, what do I want to say, path or group of fraternities that we hit. So we see each other at all those events. We get to know each other. We go to the after parties together, just talking in the stall barns, that sort of thing. Same thing if you go to open rodeos. I know people that go to open rodeos, they know nothing about, they've never even heard of fraternities or anything. So there's a lot of different groups, and they kind of are more, there's more camaraderie within your kind of niche. Like my fraternity group is kind of more where my camaraderie is. And then your local jackpots, which is where you're going to be going to season your horses up and get them used to different pens and that sort of thing. You'll get to know a lot of your local people, and they're the most supportive, especially if you're out, reaching a higher level of success. Your local people are so good to you, and they take care of you. They're glad to talk to you. They want to hear about how it was out on the road. They love to see your Facebook post, that sort of thing. That makes you feel good. I mean, sometimes I think, gosh, why do y'all want to hear about my life? I mean, it seems pretty boring to me. But a lot of other people, I'm living a dream they wish they could live, and it's my dream that I wished I, could live 20 years ago, and now here I am. So, yeah, I love it all.
I think that with any kind of sport, I think people, you know, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, we see them in their games. We watch them competing, we watch the games, we root for our favorite teams and all that. But there's so much work behind the scenes, the getting ready and the exercise and the training and the diet and keeping your blood pressure normal, dealing with stress, getting good rest. We don't see all that stuff. We just see the end result. It's like,
Yeah.
most
And
people don't watch ice skating all year long, but they'll watch every, 4 years to watch the ice skating at the Olympics. They don't see the
exactly.
amount of work that goes into it. Gymnastics is another one. That's grueling
Yeah.
training. Same thing with horse
Exactly.
events.
Well, and that's exactly it. People don't realize that it's a production, just like it is with any other show or whatever you want to call it. We train ourselves, we train the animals. There's a lot of practice that goes in. Just running around three barrels is not I mean, it's simple, but it's not simple. I mean, there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of communication with horse and rider that has to be developed over time. um, there's a lot of traveling to the vet to make sure that your horse's joints are feeling good, that they don't have, a bruise in a foot. I mean, there's a lot of really important details, and it's more important nowadays because it's so competitive. There's so many people and so many horses in it that if you drop the ball on one thing, you're out of the whole game. So we are very diligent about, going to the chiropractor, doing the dental work. We've got equine dentists that actually do their teeth a couple times a year, which is very important on young horses because they're shedding, caps, young teeth. with their permanents coming in during our whole training process. And so we run into a lot of hitches, that way where all of a sudden a horse gets sore or their mouth starts bothering them. And it kind of puts a halt on the training program. So you have to now schedule those things to go, I travel 3.5 hours to get to my vet. So now I've got an all day trip to the vet. It's even further to the chiropractor, but I insist on going to certain chiropractors because I get results from them. The equine dentist typically will come to my house, so that saves me a little bit there. You got to worry about getting to the shoer or lining that up. There's a lot behind that, let alone just sitting on the backs of the horse and going around 3 cans. But it's a full production, like you say. You see the beautiful finished result running down the alley, making a run to try to see if all the hard work paid off. But you don't see all that stuff behind the lines. And it is grueling, very grueling, physically and mentally.
I've been to so many events, over the last, 25 years now, and I've seen some of the best of the best. And I've seen some of the best go in and just have a disaster run. And they'll come out and all these younger people are there and they're just like, "Oh my goodness, you had a terrible run." And they're just like, everybody has terrible runs. If I let this one run kill me, I'll never go back in again. No matter how
Absolutely.
good you are, there are so many
Yes.
factors that can cause things not to line up. And then there's
Yes.
times when you're like questioning yourself and you go in there and you just kill it. I mean, it
Yeah.
is just like a ride from God that day. And
Yes.
you run out and you're just like, "Oh my goodness, that was really good." So
Yeah.
it's
I'll,
different with every run.
I'll tell you the biggest way, if you ever feel like you cannot reach a higher level and that you think the elite are so elite that, like you say, that they don't ever have bad days and they're just always winning, go to the local shows in their area where they live. Look at the colts. Like you wouldn't believe how many colts that we take down the alley, like doing exhibitions, and eventually figure out this horse isn't going to make a futurity colt, or it isn't going to make a futurity colt this year, and we have to call them out of the program, or they just plain and simply make you look like a fool. Like you say, we have bad days, and if you want to really figure out how human we are, show up at the local areas, where we live, and you'll see that our days are not good every single day. Just because you see, we take our elite athletes, our elite horses, that's when we're at the big shows and the big futurities and that sort of thing. So you see them, you don't see all the ones we had to kick out of our program or that just took an extra year to get there, so yeah, we're all human. We're going to have bad days, and you just have to, that's the mental game of it, is to get past those and build yourself back up and know that the big picture is way more important than that one run.
you know, have you ever had a slump that lasted
Oh,
a
dear
period of
Lord.
time? I mean,
That's it.
a good slump. I mean, where you're just like,
Well, put it this way. My program is small and I keep it that way because, in my opinion, you have to either be really good at PR and talking a big game in order to keep business, or you have to figure out how to win barrel races. The very, very elite can do both of those, but a lot of people can't do both of those. And so I've been lucky enough to, I have a good rapport with a lot of people, and I figured out how to get most of my colts to win. If you can't bankroll yourself by winning, you have to do it by having more and more horses in your barn in training. And so my slumps are, if my couple of horses don't work out, I'm in an immediate slump. I had a really big slump this last year. I cut all my horses back in order to build my property and do fencing and all that sort of thing. And so I had one futurity colt to start out this year with, and he was a failure. And it wasn't because he didn't do well, because I ran 16.7s and 16.9s on a standard with him prior to his futurity year. As soon as we went into the futurity year, he spit the bit on me. He had some physical issues, I think, that were holding him back. And I had to just basically unload him without it making any money on the sale of that horse. And that really hurt me because now, bam, just like that, I've been trying to replenish my bank accounts from paying for my place. And I was expecting that horse to do it, and he didn't do it. And so now I have no horses to enter. That horse did not bring me any kind of money that I needed, to kind of get bankrolled into the next year. And so I'm back living to kind of like, basically month to month until I get things rolling again. That's a huge slump for me. Sometimes you just plain and simply have a group of horses that just don't step it up, or everything just feels off for some reason. And sometimes you just got to keep at it and keep at it until the slump you kind of come out of that slump. I find it best to go back to your basics, stop going to so many barrel races, just ride on like different stations and things in your arena, do pasture rides. To me, when the slump comes, it's also kind of almost in conjunction with a little bit of burnout. And so
Yeah.
just refresh yourself. As soon as you refresh yourself and remember to be forgiving to your horses and be more patient with your horses, it's amazing how fast you'll come out of a slump. But we forget to do that when we're wallowed down in a slump and we're struggling so hard to get a win. But you just have to remember to take care of yourself and be more patient with your horses.
You know what I'm seeing from this is these down periods where you're doing more in the pasture and you're not making the cans visible. So they don't
Mhm.
always think they're competing, and they're out and you're getting a little pleasure riding as well as doing some training and exercise. I think that that's really beneficial for the horse, but I think it's also beneficial for the mind of the rider.
100%. There's times like when I lived in Las Vegas down there, we had the Saddle Club and we had two different arenas and really nowhere else to ride. And so you had to figure out how to be a master at always being in the arena, which a person can make happen. But when I go up to North Dakota in the summer times and my sister and them have, big pastures and cattle out in the pastures. And if you ride and check fences and walk through the cattle herds and that sort of thing, like you say, mentally, it refreshes you. Your horses get refreshed. They're not always on duty. Sometimes it's just got to be pleasurable. And if you forget that that there's pleasure in it, like any job, if you don't have take pleasure in it, it just gets grueling and
Yeah.
it's monotonous and just wears you out fast.
It's so funny because I've been on horses before, and I've had friends tell me, you're in the arena and there happens to be barrels set up, and the horse is just vibrating, and they're just like they know they want to do their job. They want to do what they do, so they'll move the cans out, and all of a sudden, then it's just pleasure walking around because you took away the thing that they're so focused on that you want them to be focused on. That it's nice to have
Exactly.
those down times in between. So let me ask
Yep.
you a question. Do you let yourself just kind of veg out a little bit on your off season? I mean, do you have an off season, or is it basically all year long?
It's basically all year long. My what I call kind of my veg out period. I go to Arizona now from the 1st of January till usually the end of February, 1st of March. And I've made some really good friends from Canada in this little community down there. And we go to, each other's places for dinner and we ride together during the day. As soon as we're all done riding, we'll have some drinks, sit out by the pool, talk, laugh, go do some things in Phoenix, just do some things. That's kind of my veg out time. It's low pressure. There are some fatalities there, but I don't know what it is about the weather's beautiful.
Yeah.
You can get so much training time done. So you feel very, very productive, but yet we have, I can only travel with 5 horses in my trailer. So that's all I have to ride. I ride 5 horses, then I'm done for the day. And then we do stuff that's just for us, just to veg out, enjoy each other's company. We watch a lot of the rodeos on the Cowboy Channel app, which, I love. And we have a good time. It's just other horse people, and that's my veg out time. So, yeah, I think that's really important.
I just think that in life in general, I think a lot of us have a tendency to want to be successful. We want to excel at our jobs and our careers. We don't want to ever appear like we're not working or lazy or whatever. And the one piece we miss is exactly what you just said, taking the time for your own mental health. And I think we saw during the pandemic how many of us came out the other side not in a really good mental state. And I
Yeah.
think we've seen a lot of people that may have been struggling up to that point, but it became a lot more visible after. And I think
Yes.
that it's the piece of the puzzle that I think a lot of people don't allow themselves to benefit from. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the idea of having downtime. I mean, I love the time of rejuvenating. I don't do it as much as I should. I'm guilty,
Yeah. That's
but thank
really,
God
really,
I love what I do. Thank God.
yeah. And that's an important thing. I mean, that'll keep you going, loving what you do. But yeah, if you don't take that time for yourself, I think you're just hurting yourself mentally. And like, I'll share with you, I've suffered from depression my entire life. It's heavier at certain times. I'm on antidepressant medication. It's I believe that there's a lot of genetic stuff involved with that as well.
True.
But it's really easy to get yourself down, like when you're having periods of time where you can't get a win with your barrel horses, or just in the practice sessions things aren't going well, and I've gone through periods where some horses will make you feel like you can't even get a handle on them, get a good handle on them, moving around and whatnot. Some of them will make you feel like you can't even train them around the barrels. And I mean, it feels very overwhelming, and it can really compound the depression feeling. So it's really important to recognize when those feelings are coming on, and that's a chemical imbalance. And you have to know yourself. I've got friends that go through those depressive states, and I get on the phone a lot with them because I understand what they're going through, and a lot of them refuse to get on any kind of help. I personally am not afraid to go for help. It can get overwhelming, and people don't want to admit that there's a lot more to the burnout, the downside, the ruts that you get in, that sort of thing, that can really overwhelm you, mentally, in your mental state of mind. And you've got to stay healthy and do what you can for yourself. And the downtimes help that a lot. Like, that really lifts my depression way as much as any kind of medication would.
I'm glad that you do that, and I know you do take care of your mental health, and that makes me feel better because we're friends, and I want you to succeed. Um, Question for you: if someone is young, maybe they've got the barrel horse bug, and they want to do it, and they're like telling their parents, let's do this. I want to get a good horse. I want to do this. It's my dream to run professionally in barrel racing. Is there any tip you could give them?
Well, the biggest tip is don't overmount your horses, or excuse me, your kids. It's so easy to want them to win immediately. And so if you have the money, financial means of going out and buying one of those big winners, that seems like a really good thing, in idea, I guess. But there's nothing worse to me than watching somebody who mounts their children up on too powerful of a horse or too fast of a horse. Or the plain and simple fact is, if you throw them on a winner immediately, what happens later on when they're not on a winner? They usually give up quite fast. They get frustrated and angry quite fast. I'm a big believer in put them on something that is at a level that they should be beginning on. Let them get the most out of that horse they possibly can, and then just move up the ladder as you go. That's how you're going to get them passionate about it. You're going to teach them how to take the losses with the wins, and they're going to want to stay with this for a long period of time. You can't just throw somebody in, make them a winner immediately without ever experiencing any kind of loss or ruts or anything like that, and think they're going to handle it mentally when those times come, because they usually don't. So I'd say if you want your kid to last in this and then love it, then make sure they're mounted properly with the right level of horse to start with.
That's a really good point. This has been so much fun. It's great to catch up with you as well. If you could leave everyone today with a thought of the day, it could be on anything, just something coming from you, your heart, just so they'll remember you from this. What would your thought of the day be?
I would have to say, no matter what, like we were talking earlier, I spent all this time in the hotel business, and that always in the background was my passion. And my passion was to be on horses, working with horses, doing whatever I could with horses. And I always did that after work. But when you have a passion and it burns that strong in you, don't ever give up on it. You have to do what you have to do. I had to have jobs in order to pay for my habits, or my passions, my hobbies. But if you desire to do to follow your dreams, don't ever give up on those, and just stay diligent about it. Eventually, your world will line up to take you in that direction if you just stay passionate about it, and look for opportunities. Just
I
never
love
give
that.
up.
I love that. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. And as you see, I am broadening the focus of the podcast because it's something I wanted to do. I want to bring different viewpoints. We all want to be healthy. We all want to live a happy, passionate world life, but we're all coming from different places doing different things. But maybe we can all pick up some tips from each other to be a little bit better, a little more secure, a little healthier, a little bit more positive. So tell your friends, go to my website, go to drjeffreyburke.com. Tap on the Honest Health logo. It'll take you to Spotify. You can listen to any of the audios of the podcast, or tap on the YouTube logo. It'll take you to YouTube and you can watch the actual interviews. Bring your friends. The whole idea of this is to bring honest, true to form information to a one-place location. The best minds in the industry, the best athletes that are out there, the best entertainers, and the best viewpoints. But remember, everybody's got a viewpoint. And you take all these viewpoints and then you sort it all out and then you apply it to your world and you take the best of the best information and make your world that much better. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you, Mark, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Everybody have a great day. God bless.
Stay tuned for more information from the Honest Health Podcast with Jeffrey Burke. And make sure to check back often for interviews and conversations from the guests we all want to hear from. I'm John the Announcer. Thanks for listening.